everyone. This is Margaret Manning with 60 and Me. This is the place where women over 60 come to be inspired. My guest today is Lyn Slater. Lyn is an academic and an author, but she has a passion for fashion and wanted to express that in the best way she knew, which is to start a blog, and it's called The Accidental Icon. It's so wonderful to have you here, Lyn. Welcome.
Thank you. Wonderful to be here.
I love your blog, The Accidental Icon. It really is a beautiful site. It takes fashion to a very different dimension. And we've talked in previous videos about how clothing is expressive of your personality and it drives how you think and feel. And how do you feel right now? Because you look great.
Why, thank you. I feel confident.
You know, to wear something like you're wearing, I think does require confidence, but it also requires something different. It requires a person who knows themselves.
Absolutely.
And I would love you to share with us, to start with, the one piece of clothing, the one item, if there was one, that tells me who Lyn is.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yes. Just what is the one item of clothing that really defines you?
I would have to say that it would be a pair of beautifully cut, high-waisted, full-legged pair of trousers.
High-waisted, though.
Yes.
See, now, that level of detail is wonderful because that, I think, is how people think about fashion. They think about the detail of how does it feel in my waist? How does it feel in my hips? And what would you wear with it on the top?
A white shirt, of course.
Well, I know you like black and white. We've talked about this, and I can see what you're wearing right now is just a perfect expression. But why for you is a white shirt such an important part of your wardrobe?
Well, I think it goes back to my childhood in a way where I was educated in Catholic schools. Uh-huh. And I was very taken by the habits of the nuns because at that time they wore long dresses, they had wide leather belts, they had pieces of white. And when I used to watch them walk and move, and I would just love to watch how the clothing moved. And so a white shirt was also part of my uniform that I had to wear. So it's very much something that's been with me my entire life. And interestingly, Ray Kawakubo from Comme des Garçons has said, if I could have designed one piece of clothing, it would have been a white shirt.
That's really interesting. And I must admit, I've got to be honest, I've bought white shirts in my life and I don't really feel comfortable in them. I prefer more of a jersey or wool, something that's more, fluid. But no, white shirts are not for me, my expression, but they are for you. And I think that's the important part of this, that every woman should choose the clothes that reflect who she is. And I love the link to your childhood too. That's great. But tell me about color in clothing then. I mean, if people don't like white shirts, what is it about color that has power with clothes?
Well, I think that there's been a lot that has been written about the color black because I love it so much. Mm-hmm. I researched it, and Yohji Yamamoto again says that it's both arrogant and
humble. Yeah, nice. That's
at the same time. Yes, at the same time that it's. I'm not sure I have that quote exactly, but that's what he was trying to say. So I think, actually, for me, I feel like colorful clothes make me look silly.
That's really interesting. But color, different women, I mean, we've done little, quizzes like what is your favorite color? And people come back with some interesting threads, like purple is very popular with older women for some reason. Teal, turquoise is also a very popular. So those cool colors seem to be more. Now, is that related, do you think, to a stereotype about aging? Or what is your thought on the choice of color a woman makes?
Well, I think that's hard to tell because it might be based on many different things. Every fashion cycle, there's colors that are really much more popular. So, for example, in fall, it's this burgundy, which I've been flirting with a little bit, with actually some shoes and a neck piece. But I think some of it might be familiarity. Some of it might be skin coloring. There's
and hair color.
And hair color. Yeah. For me, the black and white, I think, really goes with my hair. That since my hair became whiter and whiter and whiter, that the black and white really sets it off and makes it look more modern.
I think our hair color is actually very similar. And I think, sort of a platinum-y gray blonde. And I think that it's really interesting as a lot of women do get older, of course, that gray hair is a decision. Do you keep coloring or do you just let it go gray? And I think that black is a very elegant color with very light hair. But I think that what you just said about accessorizing and maybe is the key, that you let your expression of who you are come out in the accessories, shoes, necklaces, and so on.
Yes.
Are you a big fan of, well, I can see that you are a fan of accessorizing. You've got great let's see those earrings. I just turned them. I think they're amazing. Where did you get those? I have got to ask you.
Well, these I actually, twice a year, there's a big antique show in New York City, and vendors come from all over. And there's a particular woman who comes all the time, and she makes trips to Paris. And she works with different jewelry designers and goes to flea markets and then comes back with her treasure trove. And so I always buy my earrings from her. Yes. And then from another woman who's from Paris who also goes to the same show. And again, trolls the flea markets. And
that's great.
And I like to wear these because they're light. They're very, very light.
I can see that.
And they're also clips. So that works for me at this point.
I think what's interesting about what you just said, which I think people can relate to, is that clothing tells a story. That when you were describing the earrings, you could imagine where they came from, that they were in a market in Paris, that a woman had found them. Some person had worn them maybe 20 years ago to an event. The clothing that tells a story adds to your story. It kind of adds to your life, script.
Absolutely. And that's really the way that I write the blog, is that I kind of use a piece of clothing and then I do research and find out everything about it, the designer, all of that. And actually, it makes me feel very connected, more connected to the clothing in a way, when I know the story of the person who made it. And
I think that's a very interesting statement, that there's a lot more focus now on handmade clothing. That, if you go to Etsy and some of these online places where women are, the clothing is a direct creative, process for them. And then you can join in with their style.
Right. There's a lot of young people making their own clothing now.
I think older women should make clothing too. I think we should have more older women designers.
I agree. Well, actually, it's been interesting because I've been approached by a number of young designers just starting out who actually want me to wear their clothes, which I think is really interesting.
It's fascinating, yeah.
And then one of them actually suggested that we work together and do a small capsule collection, which that's very exciting for me.
Well, when that happens, let us know, because we'd be happy to chat with you about it. I think that's a fascinating, next step for you. And you're an inspiration to me. I know that people watching this are going to have questions about, what is the formula that you use, the 1, 2, 3s. But I think what you've said is that you start with clothing that makes you feel like you.
Yes.
And for you, it's a white shirt. For me, it might be a purple top. And then you just build on it from there.
Exactly.
I'm really thrilled to talk with you. And I do encourage everybody who's watching to go to Accidental Icon. It's really more than a blog, in my opinion, if I can say so, Lyn. You show fashion, but you talk about women and how they live their lives. Tell me that quote. Right. You know it better than I do about your site is not for women who buy garments. Do you know the quote?
Consume garments, right? It's not for women who just are buying clothes to consume them, but they are buying it because it is such a profound expression of who they are.
Yes. And they're living their life in those clothes.
Yes.
They're not just wearing them. I love that quote. I love your site. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll talk again soon. Thank you so much, Lyn.
Great. Thank you.